Lorenzo, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you here with me today. Thank you for your time, for being here. How are you doing?
Very well, Diana. Back from Dubai, as I know you are too. Thanks for having me. I know we actually met in person last week, and I think most people are very taxed from a week at a conference, especially Token 2049. But it was great. How did you find it?
Uh, just like you did, Lorenzo. It was hectic. It was very interesting. And I mean, the best part of it was actually meeting like people like yourself because we've been working together for a while. I've been working with Sweat Economy, and you are the head of business development, the head of Sweat Economy, and you've been through with the project for quite a while. All right, maybe
Yeah, it's been
years.
almost 6 years,
Wow, yeah, that's
five and
that's
a half.
That's
Yeah.
that's a long journey, yeah. So I mean, I think Sweat is like a very well-known project in the industry, but for somebody who does not know what Sweat Economy is, can you tell us a bit more about what you do and tell us a bit more how you were able to merge fitness and crypto together? That's a very interesting part.
I could speak about this for an hour, so I'll try not to. I think at its core, Sweat is a movement economy that rewards users for their physical activity. In particular, we reward users for their steps, which we believe is the simplest form of physical activity, at least for now. And we reward them with a token which holds the value of their steps called Sweat. The token is then stored and managed in our non-custodial wallet called Sweat Wallet. So very on brand. And right now we have a pretty large community in Web3, probably one of the largest actually. We have 20 million token holders and 3 million of which are active every month. And that enables us to not only bring our mission to millions of people in Web3, but also really to spread it forward because our goal is to obviously get a billion people to be healthier, but also wealthier through their sweat.
This is a very ambitious goal, and you guys are on the right journey. You just mentioned 3 million active users, that means per month on your wallet.
Yeah, correct. So we have a non-custodial mobile wallet, and we have 3 million monthly actives on there.
Yeah, that's actually incredible stats of onboarding people from Web 2 into the Web 3. Was this your initial mission from the start? This is how you envisioned it? You wanted to just find an easy way to onboard people into Web 3.
I would say so. No, actually, although I was not part of the initial inception of kind of our Web2 app. So to give everyone a bit of a, let's say, peek into the ecosystem. We actually started as a Web2 company back in 2016 with the launch of Sweatcoin. Sweatcoin is still very much alive, and it's a health and fitness app with, I think right now, 11 million monthly active users. But that value proposition is primarily a Web2. So it's essentially gamification of health and fitness by awarding points. Then in 2022, that's when we started looking effectively as the blockchain component. Just because before then it wasn't really possible from a technical perspective to do what then used to be called move to earn on chain. So in 2022, we actually partnered with the Near Foundation and the Near blockchain to launch not only Sweat, the token, but also Sweat Wallet as the gateway to use and store and manage that Sweat token, which essentially symbolizes the like tokenized physical activity that our users earn from the steps that are counted on the Web2 app. And the funny thing is, a lot of people ask us why we have two apps, and the reality is, Swicoin had reached such a scale by 2021, 2022, when we were thinking about the blockchain component, that not everyone in the ecosystem or among our users was actually interested in a Web3 value proposition. And so we kind of found ourselves at a crossroad thinking, okay, do we want to completely revolutionize an existing successful app for the needs and wants of a small percentage of users, or not really? And the answer is most founders wouldn't. But when that small percentage of users is 15 million people, you don't necessarily forego an opportunity like that, especially when the Web3 industry is still developing. But back then, being able to onboard 15 million people on chain was quite unheard of. And that is when we decided to essentially provide the best of both worlds and then offer a value proposition for traditional consumers and then one for those who are more curious about Web3, which is how we actually call our users. We call them crypto curious because we actually abstract a lot of the deep technical jargon and tech from them to just give them seamless experience. And I think that has actually been one of the key factors in allowing us to reach such a scale.
Yeah, I mean, you have not only, frankly, onboarded, but most importantly, you retained. I think that was the more even more difficult part, right? Because working in the Web3 domain, everybody wants users. This is those conversations you and I had in Dubai. Everybody's out there on the conference. They're searching for users, searching for a way to drive traffic. But after that, there comes even a bigger problem. How do you retain them? And you at Sweat Economy also mastered that. Even you were telling me that your retention rates are incredible. Could you remind me of those rates and tell me a bit more of how you were able to actually find a way to retain users so efficiently that others can learn?
Yeah, that's the billion-dollar question, right? I wouldn't even say the million-dollar question. So I won't go into the actual numbers. I'm probably going to get them wrong.
Okay.
But at the core, I actually think a very underrated thing to do, which is kind of obvious, but it's so interesting how it's very often overlooked. And I'm not putting ourselves on a pedestal saying, oh, we've always done it, but it's actually something that has helped us a lot, is actually speaking to users and understand what they are after, but also not only speak to your current users, but also speaking to the users that are no longer with you. Internally, we actually make a very big effort to have a really deep understanding about the real value that we bring to our existing community, meaning why do they stay, but also to the users who do not stay. So those users that churn after 7 days, 30 days, 45 days, even 1 day. Why are they churning? Are there opportunities that we're not necessarily pursuing by not providing a certain service? And once you have this overall understanding of the type of how you position yourself in the market and how whether you meet the expectations of which user persona, it's a lot easier. It's not easier to retain them, but it's easier to come up with hypotheses and, let's say, A/B tests and value propositions to try and retain them. So listening to users, as simple as that sounds, or as cliche as that sounds, is actually a great strategy to not guarantee retention, but give you tools to make educated decisions on what can lead retention. And the other thing is never getting complacent and always being able to, I don't want to say ship features, because shipping features for the sake of shipping features is actually a recipe for just confusion and disaster. But
Indeed.
again, on the back of the knowledge layer that you get from speaking to users and also keeping an eye on market trends, etc., being able to merge the two in features and realistically value propositions that can make users' life and users' experience better is once again a key to retain users. And the third one is actually community. We often refer to our users as community members. And the difference is referring to a user as a user is kind of like just treating them as a number.
Mm.
A user is a person. A user is actually a member, because a user could literally be just an account. You can duplicate accounts, you can fraud activity, you can fake to be a user. You can't really fake being an active community member. And if you focus on community first, you're then able to nurture loyalty, which is one of the things we're almost the proudest of within our user base and community, is how loyal they are. We've literally had users that have been with us probably since before I joined. Some people call me a piece of furniture in the company. I think being able to build a real sense of community is not only useful for the business itself, but funnily enough, when you and I were talking about the work we've done together, the reality is we tend to be able to work with projects who want sticky users as opposed to just volume of accounts, because everyone can get volume of accounts, but it's hard to get like sticky loyal users.
Yeah, I appreciate all this alpha. Actually, even you speaking about how you treat your user base, I understand why you have such a big growth and so much retention, because this is really the approach that you guys taking towards your community with a lot of care and love, basically. But yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, and one other thing, I think your app is also very easy to understand. A lot of problems with onboarding and keeping users, especially coming from the Web2 world, is just, the complexity. So this is a very well-known topic, right? So you kind of solve the problem because you really gamify the process. I think all applications, even the simplest wallets right now should have an essence of gamification, right? Just to keep people coming, especially for the retention element, right? If no matter how useful your product might be, but if there's something really not entertaining in a mobile application in the wide range and the wide ocean of applications out there, they will not come back to you. So you guys also perfected those two areas, and you're actually offering very interesting campaigns to other projects, just like you mentioned that we've worked together on the project that I'm actually right now on. Can you tell us a bit more about the services you offer right now to other projects. Who are those projects basically, and what type of results in terms of growth, retention, or visibility?
Of course, it's interesting because this is actually kind of I always say that we've building this almost in stealth mode for the last 18 months. And the reason for that is, first of all, we didn't know if this kind of service was something that could actually be welcomed by the market. Although normally we try to value time to signal as a main metric, like getting the best possible answer to whether something works in the shortest possible time. With this one, we actually try to do things really, really well and serve our clients in the best possible way before actually then kind of going mass market with it. And that is why the reason I refer to it as the best kept secret in Web3 is not many people actually know about the fact that there are this kind of services for projects within Sweat Wallet as opposed to just Sweat being this kind of B2C value proposition for users. Obviously, with you, we've been lucky enough to have a few of these so-called campaigns. But for anyone who doesn't know, this essentially means that the same features that we use to onboard and retain our users, we provide to other Web3 projects, especially those that are consumer oriented, as a way to essentially as a distribution channel. I hate the expression of giving access to our audience because it suggests that we're somehow just traffic washing. The reality is we're able to tailor
Nice
these
thing.
activations in the wallet as a way to help brands actually connect with our community members and drive all the KPIs that they're interested in, whether it's community growth, pure brand awareness, user acquisition, distribution of tokens, anything that is around growth, we can help deliver. But it's more than just, we don't call it user acquisition because user acquisition goes back to that notion that we were saying earlier of just sheer volume. We always say we prefer working with projects that would rather have 20,000 real users or onboard 20,000 real users than 100,000 accounts. And again, because we have 3 million monthly actives on the wallet, we have plenty of users who are interested in these projects. And that is kind of the USP we try to bring our partners is just real sticky users as opposed to just volume.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I really do focus on real because I think the more time I spend working with marketing teams and growth teams, the more I realize this kind of growth word has taken a bit of a tangent into just volume.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bots, a lot of fake accounts, a lot of just vanity metrics that don't actually help anyone. They might make you look good in front of an investor, but it's really unlikely that they help the wider cause of onboarding, the masses onto Web3 because masses need to be nurtured. People need to be nurtured before they can make a decision, whether it's funding an account or signing up to a game. So yeah, a
Yeah.
bit of a long answer, but I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree with you completely. Frankly, I've been struggling, find new sources for our organic growth for my project that I'm consulting, because of this botted issue, right? This is why I actually started this journey of, going to deep dives, different products, reviewing them, speaking to founders, testing them to actually see if those products actually drive good real results. And by real results, I mean authentic real users because it's everything is incredibly botted right now. And in many instances, I try even new tools and they seem very legit, but over time, I do some analytics that I see that even those legit tools have some botted. But I tend to say that's very misleading, and one has to really experiment, and this is a real issue, right? Because it does not help anyone. We're not driving any adoption and no benefit for any company out of this, right? What's the point of driving numbers if nobody's actually using the technology? We're not helping the crypto industry to become to drive mass adoption of it just by getting some bots to populate our platforms. So yeah, I really
And it's
appreciate.
always the same bots, by the way. That's the thing.
It's always the same. But another point I wanted to touch on actually when you were talking about how you actually help other companies create campaigns on your platform, I just remembered how when we were creating this campaign, a lot of care was focused on how to make it interesting for your users as well. So once again, that point of where you're constantly keeping your users on top of your head to make sure it's actually good for the company, which is, kind of promoting themselves on your platform, but it's also incredibly interesting and beneficial for your users because you value them extremely and you don't want to lose those retention rates by giving them something which lacks value. So you have a really very very beautiful approach to how you deal with partners and with your user base, and this actually explains, I think, why your product is so successful, and why users keep on coming back to Sweat. I'm also a user of Sweat as well.
Nice. Thanks, Diana. Yeah, it's you actually I always just refer to the word curation or like curated as a way to describe the services and the work we do with the partners. Because at the end of the day, it's just a case about being able to, it's never a trade-off, but it's being able to optimize the relationship between the value we bring to partners, which in generally is not only volume and exposure, but also the quality of that exposure. But that is only a function of how relevant we can make their product for our community. And that is why no one would be able to, I mean, technically, no one would be able to just go and upload a quest or upload a
Yeah.
campaign on Sweat Wallet. Everything goes through our team, and we work with a selected number of projects, and we actually make sure that the storytelling and the actual campaign is optimized to meet their goals, but also in a way that is conducive to the type of language and the type of content that our users are used to. Because eventually, a happy user and a user who understands is more likely to convert and is more likely to make the campaign successful for the partner that is working with us. So, yeah, like let's say quality over quantity is kind of the motto that we have when it comes to these engagements.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Lorenzo, from the perspective of somebody who's been able to be on a team, but has been able to drive so much users into the Web3 space without even them realizing. Looking at the space in general, I know this is a bit of a cliche question that everybody asks, right? We just discussed it a while ago. But really looking at what is holding this mass adoption of all this technology and of this industry while you guys actually are doing the right thing, so there's something that everybody else is not doing. What do you think that is, and what is the solution to this? How do we, I mean, how do we solve this problem to get more people in the industry?
Again, that's the beauty of it, or none of the beauty of it is the, I think everyone knows, but it's very hard to execute it. Even us, like we have done great strides in being able to get there, but we're not even close to where we want to get to, right? So we still face the same challenges. I think at the core, and this is perhaps taking a step back instead of just on a consumer level, just in general from a tech perspective and Web3 perspective, I still think Web3 right now is very much a protagonist within our industry. Meaning, if you look at even some of the most successful use cases in our industry, they still champion the Web3 element of what they do. And inherently, that scares away a long tail of consumers that are simply not ready to onboard into something that is a fully fledged Web3 product and a self proclaimed Web3 product. And I think the result of that is where I expect the next big wave of consumer adoption to come is when we shift from having Web3 products to having Web2, or just what we're used to every day, Web2 outcomes and Web2 services moving and delivering on Web3 rails. Web3 should just be like blockchain, should just be an enabler of things that are already successful and widely adopted right now, just as a way to make them more seamless, easier to use, more efficient, more scalable. So I think that will probably be one of the biggest waves, is just making sure that we get all the benefit from the Web3 side of things, but we put them under the hood just to get users better outcomes and better experiences. Because the reality is, and this is kind of a hard truth, no one really cares about mass
That's
adoption, and
how it's-
consumers don't really care about a specific chain or a specific this or a specific that. Gamers care about playing and having a good game and having good speed and having great experiences. Consumers care about having a seamless shopping experience. Users don't really care about, unless it's niches of like geeks and nerds, which I am part of that niche. I'm sure you are too. But the reality is, a lot of people, all the people that are not yet in this industry, don't really care. So abstracting all of that complexity and giving users just the best experience is probably what's going to lead, in my opinion, at least the biggest wave of adoption.
But what are you thinking of area's role in terms of user growth and retention and personalizations, especially in apps like Sweat? Because I'm looking into AI tools a lot recently, and I think that everybody's trying to put a bit of AI into the system to make it much more efficient and effective. So I'm just interested, what are you doing at Sweat to actually make AI empower your tool even more?
Great question. So yeah, we actually refer to it as the sprinkle of AI. So
Mm.
I think everyone is trying to put a sprinkle of AI on
Yeah.
products, just as a way to obviously stay relevant, but also as a way to make things easier. I think from our perspective, we're using AI for two two distinct functions. On one hand, on the internal side, like we actually do use AI for quite a few things just to make things internally more efficient, just more effective as well. On the consumer side, on the user facing front, we actually just released a very exciting new feature. It's actually more than a feature. It's called Mia. It's an AI agent. Mia stands for movement in action. So it's a very fitting name. And not only is it an AI agent, but it's basically your AI companion within Sweat Wallet. And it basically helps users seamlessly navigate in how they can turn their health and fitness into crypto. You can, instead of having to deal with complex UIs, you can literally just interact with Mia as a chat-based interface within Sweat Wallet, and Mia can help you find the best ways to maximize your yield on Sweat or complete transaction across different chains, all from Sweat Wallet. So not just Near anymore, but we've just integrated Arbitrum, BNB chain, Base, and Ethereum mainnet, bridge tokens, stake, do anything that you're struggling with or that you want to know more of, or just anything you want to do within Sweat Wallet, you can actually ask Mia, and Mia will do it for you or give you the right prompts or point you in the right direction. And I think this, not only is it great for just UI, but it also opens a whole new door in terms of app personalization, because Mia is, first of all, completely GDPR compliant, so there is no data sharing. But Mia is then able to understand the type of things you enjoy doing more. And that opens up a whole new door of opportunities when it comes to what we were talking about earlier, retention. Because being able to target specific prompts or specific push notification or specific content to users based on what they already do is a recipe to keep users engaged in a more personal way, as opposed to when you have 3 million users, it's really hard to make sure that every single piece of comp is relevant for everyone. The moment we have and we access this layer of optimization and personalization, I think the room to increase not only engagement but retention is massive. So this is probably one of the things that we're the most excited about.
Yeah, this is incredible actually seeing it in action. The moment I saw AIs, basically AI agents on the rise, that for me was a moment where I felt like, okay, maybe finally we're going to get some more crypto adoption and more people onboarded. Because if there's this difficult product which you're trying to simplify, but it's still difficult no longer how much you simplify it because it's just a blockchain technology. If you put an AI in the middle of a human and the product, maybe that would be actually a solution, a smoother flow of information. And then I just started seeing companies actually doing that. And your story with Mia here is exactly that. You guys already dropped a lot of traffic and a lot of users, so you're just magnifying the experience for the user even further. But I think with products that are even struggling at the very first stage of getting users because of the complexity of the products, I think this is exactly the way to go. And plus, as you mentioned, it just opens just a new door of opportunities which have yet not been tested, discovered, and you guys are just you're exactly innovating. You're opening a new field of what marketing really can be about in the future and how just to connect with users and what type of experiences to have with them. So I think it's incredibly interesting for you guys. You're having a lot of
Honestly, this is very fresh. This is very fresh at the time of us recording.
yeah,
It's I mean, the internal tests we've had were unbelievable. We're very excited for Mia to be able to onboard users more seamlessly and just really be their companion, but also, as I said, internally give us the insights so that we can better communicate with our audience.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Maybe the last piece of advice, Lorenzo, for somebody who's building out there right now, who's a founder building an application in the Web3 space, what do you advise them to do or not to do if they're actually looking at how to onboard real users and make their product useful and interested and demanded?
This is such an interesting question, Diana, because I'm actually going to quote or semi-quote our founder and CEO Oleg, because I've heard him not only say but also show us that this is true. And it's starting with problems and solving problems as opposed to ideas, because very often people have ideas and they sound very exciting, but testing whether an idea solves a problem is a lot harder than trying to come up with an idea to solve an existing problem. And I think starting with problems and how to solve them generally will lead to more success than just chasing an idea that actually does not solve a problem. So starting with problems that need solving and finding ways and ideas to solve them, I wouldn't say it's a recipe to achieve mass adoption necessarily, because the problem could be a problem that is only applicable to a niche of people or companies experiencing that problem. But generally speaking, is a more direct path to find the potential mass adoption rather than just starting from an idea. So solving problems rather than building ideas, I think, is generally a good rule of thumb. And again, I don't claim it to be my advice, but it's something that I've been fortunate enough to witness firsthand working with our founders.
Indeed, and it's very unfortunate. A lot of our blockchain community, they're just driven by ideas and no real use cases. And I would love to see more of those. So thank you so much, Lorenzo, for your insights. A lot of interesting alpha. Listening to what you told me today about sweat economy, I'm really, I have my spirit is all up, and I'm very happy to hear that how you're innovating, especially in the field of AI, because 16 years past Bitcoin and 8% adoption rates worldwide, something has been done wrong. But I think companies as yours, as Sweat Economy, being one of the top companies who actually got this problem solved, they are the ones who actually drove this 8%, I bet. So
Way too kind.
you're really guiding this whole ecosystem. And so I really look forward to see how you will move on towards your mission of onboarding a billion users, you said, yes, into crypto. Hopefully, I wish you best of luck. And thank you so much for your time, Lorenzo. It was such a pleasure to speaking with you today.
My pleasure was all mine, Diana. Thanks so much. And yeah, looking forward to doing more chats like this.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.